Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Debbie Rehart, she, her pronouns, and I look forward to sharing leadership of today's service with Reverend Bran Lennox. Whoever you are, wherever you live, whomever you love, and however you may spend your days, you are welcome at the Unitarian Church of Harrisburg. We invite you to join us for coffee hour following this morning's service, either downstairs in the common room or on Zoom. I invite you to take this moment to hold our space here as sacred by silencing your, easy for me to say, electronic devices and preparing yourself to be present. Online or in person, we're grateful for this time together.
We have chosen once again to bring ourselves here to this sanctuary today to gather as a community of faith. We join together in solidarity as a covenanted people who are drawn together by the promise of connection and the mysterious pull of the unanswerable. As seekers, wanderers, appreciators of nature, believers of justice, and creators of connection, our paths have converged today so that we might become present to the spirit that is worship. And so let us worship together. Please rise and embody your spirit, and we'll join in singing. Each week, it is our tradition to light a chalice which casts a circle of light to hold us all. As we create anew this symbol of our shared faith, let's reflect on these words by Lisa Doig. Why a flaming chalice? The question comes. It's the cup of life, we answer. A cup of blessings overflowing, a cup of water to quench our spirit's thirst, the flame of truth, the fire of purification, oil for anointing, healing, out of chaos, fear, and horror. Thus was the symbol crafted a generation ago. So may it be for us. In these days of uncertainty, sorrow, and rage, and a light to warm our souls and guide us home.
We affirm our mission to encourage, equip, and empower, and we ask that you join us in the affirmation of our covenant with one another.
Love is the spirit of this congregation, and service is our gift. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Let's start at 134, please. It's just church. And 1, 2, 3, 4.
So today's story is titled, What We'll Build, Plans for Our Future Together, and it's written and illustrated by Oliver Jeffers. What shall we build, you and I? Let's gather all our tools for a start, for pulling together and taking apart. Let's build a door where there was none. We'll build a house to be our home. I'll build your future, and you'll build mine. We'll build a watch to keep our time. We'll build some love to set aside, and build a hole where we can hide. A fortress to keep our enemies out, and higher walls for when they shout. But you don't always lose, and you don't always win, so we'll build a gate to let them in. We'll build a table to drink our tea and say, I'm sorry, me too, me three. We'll build a tower to watch the sky and the other worlds that pass us by. Let's build a tunnel to anywhere. Let's build a road up to the moon. Let's build a comfy place to rest, for we'll be tired soon. Let's build a boat that can't be broken, that will not sink or be cracked open. A place to stay when all is lost, to keep the things we love the most. We'll put these favorite things beside the earlier love we set aside. I think that we may want them later, when times are hard and the needs are greater. But first things first, let's build a fire. For we've planned a lot, and now we're tired. It'll keep us warm like when we were born. Then we'll say goodnight as all's all right. These are the things we'll build, you and I. The end. And now our children will begin their classes downstairs.
Good morning again. When Reverend Bran asked me to be the worship associate for this service with the topic imagination, I immediately thought of my favorite book of all time, Where the Wild Things Are, by Maurice Sendak. Does anybody else remember that book? Yeah, I figured Nan would. The book came out in, I think, 1963, so you'd have to be about as old as me to remember this book. And it won a Caldecott medal, which, Nan, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's like a big deal in children's book circles, right? That's what I thought. The biggest deal, there you go. So it was a super awesome book. And I've read a whole lot of books in my life. Some have been like New York Times bestsellers or Pulitzer Prize winners. They won the Man Booker Prize or the National Book Award. But still, when I'm asked what is my favorite book, I always say Where the Wild Things Are. Although I have been known to say Gone with the Wind on occasion. But why, you might ask me, why this book, a children's book? Because it reminds me of the beautiful adventures that I had as a youth, just with my imagination. And for those of you who don't know the book, here's a quick synopsis with some visual aids, because you got to see the wild things. Now, this is Max. As you can see, he is making mischief of one kind or another. And finally, his exasperated mother says, "Wild thing, go to your room." So he goes to his room, but of course he's not happy about it because it involves missing dinner. He doesn't want to do that. So he kind of gets, and you see his expression here, he's like being a little mischievous. He says, well, I'll show them. I'll just make this whole world in my room. So he does what any boy would do, gleefully creates an imaginary jungle in his room, complete with a giant lake and a boat named, naturally, Max. And he sails off over days and weeks till he gets to this strange land, the land of the wild things. And it says here that he came to the place where the wild things were, and they roared their terrible roars, and they gnashed their terrible teeth, and they waved their terrible claws. But Max was not deterred. He told the wild things to be still, and they did. And the wild things were so impressed by his courage and bravery that they made him the king of all wild things. So he gets his little crown. And Max said, "Let the wild rumpus start." And much fun and frivolity ensued. As you see, he's the king, and they carry him all around, and they're very happy. They swing from the trees. They do all kinds of fun, exciting things for young boys. Well, if you get to the next page, that would be good. Okay. But finally, Max gets tired of all the partying and probably a little homesick. So he tells the wild things that he is going away. But the wild things, of course, aren't happy about this because he's their king. So they create what they did at the beginning. They roar their terrible roars and gnash their terrible teeth and wave their terrible claws. But Max says, "I'm going away anyway." He gets back in his boat and sails away toward his home. And when he gets there, his dinner is waiting, and it is still hot. That's my favorite line right there. Oop. I love this story not only because it beautifully illustrates a rich imagination, but also that Max's home is a safe place where people love him and provide him with a hot dinner, even though he was acting like a wild thing. Plus, the illustrations are just beautiful. When I was a child, I exercised my imagination regularly and well. As the oldest child, I was the game director and was in charge of distributing the roles, and pretty much everything else, too. But I planned imaginary clubs, where I was, of course, the president. And it was based in the tree house that was built by my grandfather. And I cooked delicious stews from the things I found in the woods, like May apples, acorns, all kinds of things. And I tried to get the club members to eat them. Luckily, they always refused, so I didn't have to worry about poisoning somebody. My Nan and Pat, my maternal grandparents, they had a very quaint motel in Gettysburg, which had a wonderful square patch of pine trees right next to the pool. And I made this into my forest kingdom. I pulled rocks from the nearby stream and flowers from the field to decorate my kingdom. My brother, sister, and I played house in my Nan's attic, where I was, of course, the mom. Danny, my younger brother, always had to be the baby, and we dressed him up and things like that. He wasn't real happy about that, but oh well. That's what younger brothers are for. We also played library, where all of our books, we would stamp them and write the due dates in there and all that sort of thing. We didn't have any fines for not returning them on time, so we could have done that. We could have financed our games, I guess. We also played grocery store with non-perishables, Amy's nodding her head, that we would purloin from various pantries and things, and then we would, each take turns being the person who was going to the grocery store, and then we'd ring them up. But one of our favorite imaginary games was restaurant. We called our restaurant the Tally Ho, and apparently there is a restaurant called Tally Ho somewhere in Maryland. We made up menus. We forced all of the adults to be customers so we could take their orders and pretend to make their food. This was just great fun for us. I sometimes feel nostalgic for that time and my rich imaginary scenarios, but life and reality inevitably intervened. Now house is too much work and not nearly as fun, and restaurant is too expensive. Unfortunately, imagination can have a negative component as well. I have been known to be thinking what ifs and spiraling down a slippery rabbit hole. I believe psychologists call this something like catastrophizing. And before you know it, I'm in this profound slump, and most of it wasn't even real. But I've worked hard over the years at learning various effective coping strategies to negate that. I will close with one of my favorite Dr. Seuss quotes. Think left and think right and think low and think high. Oh, the things you can think up if you only try. So I leave you with, don't forget to exercise your imagination. You never know what you might be able to dream up. Thank you.
I want to invite you into a meditation with me. And this meditation is offered by Adrienne Marie Brown in the book Holding Change. Adrienne says, "Do you remember being young, guided in an exercise of breathing where you cupped your hands around an invisible ball of energy and you moved it around? Breathe with me now. And maybe you'll join in with this practice of holding this energy in your hands. In front of you is a ball of energy. It is yours, an extension of you. It hovers in the air, shifting with your intention. Breathe out while pushing this invisible ball of energy away from you. Breathe in, bringing the energy into and all around you. Again, breathe out and push the energy away. And breathe in and take it in to you. Breathe out, move it up above your head, spreading it into a massive, glorious umbrella. Breathe in, bring it back to the center, and hold it there. Breathe out and take it down through your bones to the floor. Breathe in, rolling back up, and bring the energy back into your heart. And rest there and keep breathing. Adrienne says, whenever I breathe this deeply with others, I feel calm. I feel how solid this presence, this energy is in me, in my hands, even when I am time traveling from the moment of me writing this to the moment of your reading it. Since I was young, in most rooms, I could sense the tangible, the demographics, the looks on people's faces, the body language, the excitement or exhaustion. But I can also feel the room, feel the matrix of the intangible, invisible, the space between the bodies, the space that is fed by our collective emotion. It feels thick and vibrant to me, nearly solid at times. Do you feel it? Let's join in a moment of silence together, in active feeling. Now is the time when we engage as a community in the sharing of our joys and sorrows, our concerns and milestones. When we join together to hold each other in support and in celebration, we deepen our sense of interrelationship. We may find our sorrows eased and our joys magnified. I invite you to share them now through writing them on a slip of paper at the back of the room or typing them in the virtual chat. Please indicate whether your message is okay to share out loud. You can also honor whatever you're holding in your heart by placing a stone into the water of community. Please come down the center aisle, returning to your seats by the side aisles. Spoken or unspoken, our hearts join with yours in carrying all that life brings. place one final stone in the water today in honor of all those who we honor in spirit, yet who are not here with us in body. Just bring it up when it's ready. We have a message from Abena Walker who says, "Good morning. I'm a little under the weather today. Have a beautiful day." We hope you feel better soon. Joe Hefner shares with us, "It's good to see the bell choir up front. I miss you guys." Our friend Wenji from Haiti shares, "Good morning, everyone. Last night I had a terrible headache. My mother was worried, so she gave me some medicine against the pain. I have no pain now. Have a nice day, all." Molly Stahl says, "A joy. I am on the mend from my surgery. I can now walk with my crutch and just started physical therapy on Friday, February 6th. I am looking forward to a speedy recovery." Libby Tisdale shares, "Today, my brother David from, Libby, help me out here. Thank you. From Morrisville, Vermont. We are going to Virginia today to walk for peace and join the monks to walk into Washington. Send us positive vibes and prayers." Jim Kavanaugh offers, "I had my first bladder cancer infusion Thursday out of 6. It went well, and I look forward to a successful outcome." And Andy shares with us, "As you may have heard, there are 3 USA warships in Port-au-Prince harbor. Violence still occurs throughout the city. Wenji's brothers missed school to stay home and be safe. Please keep them in your thoughts." For all that has been shared and those many concerns which we hold deep in our hearts and yet remain unspoken, we journey with each other in love. Creative love, our thanks we give, that this our world is incomplete, that struggle greets our will to live, that work awaits our hands and feet, that we are not yet fully wise, that we are in the making still, as friends who share one enterprise and strive to Let me ask you a question. When was the last time that you caught yourself daydreaming? We all have different experiences of the world, I know. But for me, to be uncomfortably honest, I really don't daydream anymore. In fact, just to get lost in thought enough to do any original writing, I have to construct special circumstances for myself. It takes about 20 minutes of protected mental space to create enough of a channel for my creative voice to start flowing. This is, of course, the reason why daydreaming has become more rare. For someone like me, going 20 minutes without external stimulation virtually never happens. Between social media, portable audio entertainment, maintaining 3 high-volume email inboxes, the potential for distraction is infinite. And for many of us, we often get so swept up in the day-to-day intensity of this world and forget to take the time to intentionally rest and recharge our minds. It really feels impossible. I remember daydreaming as a young person, waiting for the bus, looking out the car window, standing in line. All those little in-between times where once there were ideas bubbling up, an emptiness now occupied by checking my phone. And there's a reason why it's increasingly difficult to leave daydreaming space, and that's not just because of these newfangled devices and the addictive power of social media. It's because when we are in a state of fear and survival stress, being alone with our thoughts feels like touching a hot stove. We either find ourselves desperate for distractions, which is a flight state, or we find ourselves compulsively poking at the distressing thing, which is a fight state. When I'm getting ready to write, it's not just about getting free of distractions. Sitting and looking at a blank page only leaves me more stuck. Rather, I make a cup of tea, I put on some soothing music, which for me is industrial music, but it'll be different for you. I take a walk or a hot bath. I put myself in an environment that feels secure and tell myself that there's no rush. I don't try to write until the words start arriving naturally. It's impossible to try to create something meaningful when my nervous system is anything other than centered. So of course it's becoming difficult to be creative when there are so many reasons for all of us to be feeling pushed off center. It does not help that there is now this convenient technology which offers to be creative for us on our behalf with no effort required. You can stay in your frantic state and the machine will write your story for you. And this compression of our capacity for imagination is part of the development of learned helplessness. And it's another parallel between living in American culture today and being subjected to major interpersonal abuse. Abusive people rely on learned helplessness to maintain control over their targets. When a person internalizes the idea that they will receive punishment when they try to exercise free will, eventually they learn to stop trying. A person in a state of learned helplessness may then be presented with opportunities for escape or improvements to their situation should they only act and find themselves fundamentally unable to imagine a life free of their abuse dynamic. They will make excuses to keep things the way that they are because the only alternative they can imagine is worse than what they're already dealing with. Their capacity to engage creative thinking enough to picture a better way of life has been crushed. And this is the state in which most of us are finding ourselves in today's America. I'm reminded of something that happened recently. In a book group that I belong to, we read a book called Imagination, a Manifesto. After reading, we asked each other to write a page or two about the future that we dream of. And this request prompted bitter rage from more than one participant who felt that others' tentative, optimistic imaginings were an insult to reality. We are all living today under conditions which make it difficult or impossible to imagine positive change. And now I want you to keep that in mind as we move into the rest of this sermon, because here's where the more difficult part begins. The authoritarian state in which we find ourselves today is the ultimate and inevitable expression of the system of mass incarceration upon which our society was constructed. I'm going to repeat that. The authoritarian state in which we find ourselves today is the ultimate and inevitable expression of the system of mass incarceration upon which our society was constructed. This is not a sudden shift out of nowhere. This is what happens when a group of humans decides that another group of humans is okay to exploit, oppress, and marginalize in the name of economic and national security. And it all starts and ends, in our case, with incarceration and the criminal punishment system. Back in the days of this country's history, early days of this country's history, prison actually referred to two separate institutions. One was the penitentiary, literally the place where lawbreakers served penance for their crimes. The other was a holding system for humans being trafficked into slavery. At the time, the words prisoner and slave were used interchangeably. Now, what our society has done is kept the image of the penitentiary while maintaining the reality of chattel pens. The illusion crumbles the moment that you interact with any facts of the system, and this is why the myth that prisons keep us safe is so important to the status quo. The beginning of the history feels pretty familiar. The economy of the United States, most notably the southern plantations, relied heavily on the labor of enslaved people. To justify the horrific violence done by white traffickers and enslavers, a societal belief system was constructed which presented dark-skinned people, Africans broadly, and their lineage as less than human. Later, the societal inferiority of Black people was formalized into law via the 3/5 Compromise. This is pretty basic stuff so far. If you are not keeping up, then I need you to go read The New Jim Crow and then rewatch this sermon recording, because none of us have time for this in 2026. The really crucial part of this story is that when the Emancipation Proclamation was ratified in 1863, a move widely lauded as granting freedom to everyone in the country, and while, yes, it was certainly progress that out slavery was no longer normalized, just 1 year later, Lincoln's administration tore a hole straight through the proclamation's protections by including a fun little clause to the 13th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. To this day, the amendment reads, "Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as punishment for crime, whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction." And in that one phrase, the primary motivation for mass incarceration was established. Black people could be re-enslaved. People of color could continue to be exploited for profit, provided some criminal conviction could be produced as justification. And quick pause, I know it sounds like I've got my tinfoil hat on right now, which is why I'm going to continue to encourage you to read some books about this. I cannot emphasize enough how unembellished a story I'm telling you at the moment. The country's first cooperative police force was established solely for the purpose of capturing recently emancipated African Americans. The entire concept of criminal vagrancy was created so that Black people who hadn't had a chance to secure employment straight out of slavery could be convicted and re-enslaved. The entire concept of criminal loitering was also created as an excuse to snatch Black people on the justification that existing in public was now a crime. Today, for-profit prisons and forced prison labor are prevalent across the United States. These prisons are beyond disproportionately filled with people of color, thanks in large part to an intentional and targeted campaign in the 1980s to present cannabis and other drugs as a major threat to public safety, justifying the implementation of severe drug charges and mandatory minimum sentences. White people, even those who used and sold drugs, were largely untouched by these laws, as prosecutors and judges had the ability to adjust the charges on an individual basis. US politicians even constructed the myth of the super predator, claiming that some people were genetically predisposed to violent crime, referring to these purported genetic criminals with the pseudoscientific moniker Homo criminalis. And I'll give you 3 guesses as to what physical characteristics these super predators were rumored to display. The United States today has 5% of the world's population and 20% of the world's incarcerated persons. Imprisonment-related fees bolster the economy to the tune of $112 billion annually. Here in Dauphin County, drawn-out court and legal fees are so far beyond the possibility of payable that being able to afford them is seen as legally suspicious. I could go on all day, and instead, I'll just suggest looking into the scholarship of Angela Davis after you leave here. There is no part of the United States criminal punishment system that isn't corrupted to the core by the racism and profit motive it is built on. The cruelties and human rights violations which take place in American prisons are nightmarish. And the majority of us continue to accept this system because the only version of justice we have ever been shown is vengeance. And I realize that in this moment, I am taking a professional risk by sitting up here and saying this in so many words. But I also can't make peace with the cowardice of preaching every week without ever claiming what I believe with my whole chest. All of this is why I am a prison abolitionist. Prisons do not prevent harm, they proliferate it. Our criminal punishment system relies on the exploitation and impoverishment of marginalized people with the twofold goal of profit and vengeance. And as a universalist, I can't accept vengeance as a reason to allow harm. And just about every time I claim this stance, can anybody guess what identical reply I receive? But what will we do about rapists? Every time. I don't know, friend, what will we do about people committing rape? Because what we're doing right now isn't exactly working. And this is the learned helplessness response. This is the lifeless abdication of imagination that keeps us under control. We've been shown that there is no other way, and we've given up. The only alternatives we can imagine are worse, so we suppose that this is how it has to be. Beloved ones, when you catch yourself in that state of resignation, accepting injustice because it seems like no better world is possible, it's time to resist. Find 20 minutes in a place that feels safe. Find your center, make a cup of tea. Ask yourself, what could be possible? What else might there be? Let yourself imagine. Create something. Let the wild rumpus start. And with immense joy and gratitude, let me remind you that we are not alone. There have been others imagining, creating, practicing, and living the ways of liberation for generations. Read a book by Mariam Kaba. Go listen to a podcast by Prentice Hemphill. Look up a speech by Angela Davis. Listen to a song by Nina Simone. Join in the continuum of collective liberation so that when at last the monstrousness of fascism in America is defeated, there will be a world worthy of our imaginations waiting there to unfold us.
Good morning. I'm Andy Back, and I serve on the UCH Board of Trustees. I'm here to represent the important labor and leadership that our members offer to keep this congregation thriving. The Unitarian Church of Harrisburg is, as always, an intentionally gathered congregation of freely thinking, loving people. The church is created, sustained, and supported by us. Each week, we take up an offering where we ask each other to share money to support the church. We also use half of this money to support a charity which is doing important work to improve the world. This month, we are sharing with the UUA Disaster Relief Fund. The Disaster Relief Fund is part of a covenant between the Unitarian Universalist Association and congregations, between congregations who give generously and those in need, and with our community partners. In just a moment, the greeters will start passing offering plates around. You can put cash or checks in the plate when it comes by. You can also donate online by scanning the QR code on the back of your order of service, or by visiting uchbg.org and scroll to the bottom of the page for options. Your financial support and commitment matter. Please consider giving what you are able.
Before we begin our final song, or did you have a reading now?
Yes.
Yeah, do your reading.
Back to you in a second.
Thanks, Dan. No worries. A reading, it's entitled Nothing is Static by Manish Mishra Marzetti. The ground shifts, sometimes slowly, sometimes like an earthquake, reminding us that the solidity we often seek and love is always an illusion. The crumbling dust of our desert plains, the moist fertility of farmlands, the eroding coastline of tidal shores, all are changing. New experiences lead to new truths, which foster evolution. the natural course of life, always pushing us toward greater understandings of what it means to be human. Everything about our existence points towards change, flexibility, and dynamic recreation. And it's hard because change involves loss. Can we hold the losses well while not holding ourselves back? The ground shifts, sometimes slowly, sometimes like an earthquake. Nothing is static.
Sorry about that. You know, I just wanted to say, we have such beautiful music here. The bells playing today, our own voices lifted, and songs of truth and encouragement and love. But my favorite song this morning is a song we hear too rarely. The call of a newborn saying, I am here.
Yes.
I have needs.
Yeah.
Notice me. And we notice that child and hope that they and more come back and sing their song for us.
Yes.
Let's sing 1014, answering the call of love.
These benediction words come from Dr. Seuss. You will come to a place where the streets are not marked. Some windows are lighted, but mostly they're darked. A place you could sprain both your elbow and chin. Do you dare to stay out? Do you dare to go in? How much can you lose? How much can you win?